Hi guys, welcome to part 2 where we're going to go over the answers to these. So instead of just showing you all the answers, I did want to walk you through my thought process. Alright, so function family, I see a 2, which, hey, that tells me I have a quadratic function. Okay, I'm going to abbreviate because writing is terrible on this Mac. Okay, now, what did they add to my parent function? If you'll remember from last class, x squared is your parent function. So, hey, they added a negative 2. If I look back at my notes, a negative 2 outside the function is going to shift it down. So I know in words, this graph is going to shift down 2. Okay, that's all they added. So this one only had one answer, one transformation. Now the hard part is drawing the picture. So I know a quadratic is a U-shaped. So I know I'm going to be drawing a U. Now I know the parent function of a quadratic usually goes through the origin, but since it was shifted down 2, I'm going to go 1, 2. So here's my new middle, and then you're going to draw the best rough sketch of a U, and you are done. So that was the answer to part B. Again, rough sketch does not have to be perfect. I'm looking for, does it look like a U? Is it moved down? All right, next two are getting a little harder. So first off, I see these bars, which that tells me it is absolute value. So that is my function family, absolute value. Okay. The next thing, here is my parent function. So they added a 2 in the front and then a negative 2 behind the function. So I immediately know I have 2 transformations to talk about. This 2 in the front, if I go up to my notes, in the front, 2, is that bigger than 1 or smaller than 1? It's bigger than 1, so that is a vertical stretch. So I'm going to type vertical stretch. Then if you want to be fancy, it is a vertical stretch by 2. Okay, because there was a 2 in the front. So visually, my absolute value is going to get smaller or narrower. This negative 2 is outside the function. Again, looking at this last category, if it's outside, that is shifting it down if it's negative. So I know this graph is shifted down. And then it was 2. Some people put down negative 2, but the negative is what tells you it went down. So it went down a positive value. And that's it. So again, the hard part is sketching the graph. Absolute value, I know looks like a V. It's okay, I'm drawing a V. A vertical stretch means it's going to be very skinny. And then it's moving down 2. So let me go ahead and move it down 2. And then I'm going to make it very tall. So it's going to be very skinny. Okay. If I show you guys in Desmos, let's do that. So here's my g of x. It was 2, absolute value of x minus 2. Okay, so there's my answer. I can double check to see if it's right. Now again, if you wanted to compare it to your parent function, that is just the absolute value of x. Okay, so again, the blue function's your parent one. It was shifted down. And then the red function is much more narrower, therefore it was a vertical stretch. Okay. All right, the last one. I see a squared, which, hey, that tells me it's a quadratic. So that would be my function family. It's a quadratic. Now, for the transformations, I have to say, hey, what did they add? So they added something in front, and then they added something inside. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 transformations to talk about. Again, that squared tells you quadratic does not include a transformation. So in front, let me scroll on up. In front, over here, is it bigger than 1 or smaller than 1? 2.2 is bigger than 1, so that's going to be another vertical stretch. I'm going to copy that vertical stretch by 2.2. Now, I've got parentheses, and this plus 2 is on the inside of the function. So again, if I scroll up, inside the function is left or right. It's what opposite of what you would expect. It was a +2, so it's actually going to go to the left 2. So that is my next left 2. Okay, so again, you think +2 is to the right. Hey, it's actually to the left if it's inside the function. All right, now the hard part is sketching this. So again, quadratic I know is a U. So I'm drawing a U. Vertical stretch means it's very thin, and then it is moving to the left. So instead of starting at 0, I'm now going to go to the left 2. It's not moving up or down. So your U is going to stay on this x-axis, but it's going to be very small, very thin. That would be a vertical stretch. Now again, you could type that in Desmos if you really wanted to double check your work. But again, we are striving to do it without a calculator at this point, or Desmos, for your test. Whoop, whoop. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. I do want you guys to try the last 2 on the page. They're multiple choice EOC style questions. So go ahead and press pause and try those 2, and then we'll talk about them. All right, answers. So on the next one, we got an EOC style question. Describe the transformations of the following function. So I've got f of x plus 7 inside, and then a -3 on the outside. Again, on the inside of the function, that is shifting it left or right. It's the opposite of what you would think. So if it's a +7, it's actually a -7, which is moving it to the left 7. And then this negative on the outside is going to move it down. And so again, left is going to be a horizontal shift. So horizontal meaning left and right. And then vertical meaning up and down. So the correct answer was C. On this next one, I know your graphs were not colored. I can't remember if it was f of x or g of x. But it says the blue graph is a transformation of the red graph. And so which best represents the function? The red is your original, and then 2 would be the second one. So this graph did go to the right, which means it's happening inside the function. So it's either C or D. But again, it's the opposite of what you would think. You would think right is positive, and actually right is negative. Okay? So that is your parent functions and transformations. So to summarize, you can have 7 different types of transformations. It can happen outside the function, inside the function, or in front of the function. If it's positive outside, it goes up. Negative outside goes down. Inside the function, opposite of what you think. Positive is left, negative is right. In front of the function, that's either your stretch or your compress. And if it's negative, it's going to flip or reflect. Okay, so this is a lot of terminology. We are going to do this in every single module. We're doing it in Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, Module 4. So if it's not clicking now, because honestly you have to memorize it. So if it's not clicking now, hopefully it's going to click after several modules of completing this work. Okay? All right, so you guys are done with your notes. The next thing, bloop, on Canvas is to do a Big Ideas assignment. So you should be able to click this link, log into Big Ideas, and create or practice assignment. It's 12 questions. It's drag and drop. It's multi-select and so on. There is a graphing calculator. Again, you could totally graph it. It would give you the answer. But again, we are striving to do this without a calculator or without Desmos. And you guys can check your answer up to 3 times per question. Okay, so that's your first assignment and your first grade in the grade book. So thanks for watching and have a great day.